Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to another StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void Zerg tutorial. Now in this video I want to be going over a build order that works extremely well right now and that I've personally not lost a single game with yet, as long as it's on Prion Terraces and as long as it is going to be a Zerg versus Protoss. You gotta make me one promise though. Please don't execute this build every single time you're up against a Protoss player on Prion Terraces, because I don't want, Protoss players to start hard countering this stuff. Alright, without further ado, let's talk about it. So, the reason why it works so very well on this map is because of these golden mineral patches here. The golden mineral patches obviously allow you to transfer the workers towards them and basically get a stupidly high income initially. So basically what we're gonna go for are Zerglings and Banelings. Build order is gonna be very, very easy. I'll cover that in just a second. Now, like I said, I have not personally lost any matches with it yet, and I think I've done it, I don't know, maybe 10 times or so far on this map. It's very, very powerful against a variety of Protoss build orders. Now, in this particular case, my opponent is going to open up with a lot of units, and he's also going to be getting a third Nexus much earlier than he really should be getting it. But you got to keep in mind, he basically delays all kind of stacking up just to get a big army up, and all the units that he is going to get up are really good against Zerglings as well as against Banelings, and, it will still work out just fine. So, as you may have noticed, we're opening up with a Hatchery into another Hatchery, which obviously can be countered with relative ease, but in the current state of the game, that doesn't really happen. So we go Hatchery into a Gas Geyser, and then a Spawning Pool. So double hatch before the pool, and the reason why this works so very well is because Protoss players on this particular map pretty much all go for a gateway into a Nexus, then eventually put up like a Cyber Core here as well. Apparently this guy actually even gets the double gas beforehand, which is also pretty standard right now. Now, as far as the actual strategy here goes, basically, we're going to be saving up a lot of Zerglings, morph them into Banelings, and run them inside of our opponent's bases. You're obviously going to have to macro a little, or micro a little bit, but here's the drone transfer. You want to go ahead and transfer roughly about 12 workers. I don't know exactly if I transfer 12 of them in this particular case. Now, it looks like I've actually accidentally transferred 13. No big deal, but right now, my income will start skyrocketing. And as you can see, well, you should be able to see that very shortly, the income will start going pretty heavily in my favor once the drones do indeed start returning their minerals. So you can see, like, already just a couple minutes into the game, we have a pretty big economy advantage as far as the minerals go. Now, my opponent has a Dongyoto's natural. I decide to point that out, obviously. But here's once again the build order, right? We go Hatchery. We go gas, we go spawning pool, very standard. Once you have 100 gas, you put up the Zergling speed in the spawning pool. You start producing a bunch of queens, but basically at this point, I start making non-stop Zerglings. Now, at a 50 gas, I am also going to be following this up with another Baneling nest right there as well. But right when I start up the Zergling speed is when I start non-stop Zergling production. Now, it's very important, right, that you don't get this scouted right now. I mean, if this gets scouted right now, my opponent is obviously going to have a very easy time to counter this, because he's simply just going to, like, sort of, make a bunch of gateways and stop it. So you gotta make sure that you don't get this scouted whatsoever. I'm flying in this overload on purpose right now to try and force my opponent to build a Stalker, and very shortly you'll see me move out. Well, I really should be moving out with a couple of Zerglings just to sort of like distract him so we know what's going on. So the Overlord in his main base is actually pretty important. Oftentimes they immediately start chrono boosting out a Stalker, which is exactly what we are trying to get here. Now, I'm just injecting with the 3 queens that I've got, and here you do see, like, I'm running across the map with a couple of my links, just in case he goes for double adept aggression. But right now, at 3 minutes and 50 seconds-ish, I noticed that my opponent seems to be building something at the third base. And I'm only using a couple of Zerglings for scouting purposes right now. However, as soon as link speed finishes up, I'm gonna go ahead and just, roll to his side of the map. Now notice, my opponent has a relatively big army. That's a bunch of Zealots, a bunch of Adepts. He already has a Oracle out on the map as well, which is obviously just going to be able to counter this easily. And I am just gonna start pushing forward with all the units that I've got. Using the Banelings here to the advantage, obviously. Try and use them to have their splash damage, ideally on their army. But also, if I can, I will be blowing up a pylon if I need to. And here is the surround on his main army. Now notice, he's still actually having a lot of stuff. Like, he actually nearly manages to clean it up. And it's actually the most kind of units that I've actually seen out of a Protoss at this point in time. Obviously, you gotta avoid the photon overcharges. Photon overcharges should only be 1 or 2 of them available right now. And as long as you avoid them and just reinforce with more and more Zerglings, this should be a relatively clear pickup. Now, obviously, we're primarily looking here for the probes. If you kill probes, you're going to be able to kill the game as well. So I'm just basically moving across the map now, trying to snipe as many of these little buggers as possible. Now, Protoss players out there may be saying like, well, what would you do if the Protoss, you know, opens up with like a 1-base play or opens up with like 2-base with a lot of gateways? Honestly, I would just blindly lose the game. But the fact of the matter is that the golden minerals are so juicy that pretty much no one is doing that right now. And in pretty much every single scenario, they're gonna try and tech up to something like Stargate into robotics, or Stargate into like a robotics bay, or like, you know, obviously, what's it called? The robotic facility into a robotics bay as well. And pretty much all the time, they're just gonna do a build order that is far, far, far inferior against the strategy. So I would highly recommend you give it a try, even though it's very dirty, even though it's very gross, even though it's very cheesy. I gotta be honest, it's really fun as well. It feels really good to like blow up a Protoss probes, a Protoss player's probes, in particular when they all clump them up together and you sort of like get 2 Banelings to connect with like 20 of them. Feels really good, man. But anyways, so here my Banelings are once again morphing in. I'm running across the map with as many units here as possible. Do end up killing that 3rd base. Obviously, all of his workers pretty much went down as well. And at this point, we pick up the victory. So once again, as far as the build order goes, Hatchery, gas, spawning pool, no super specific timings on that. At 100 gas, start up the Zergling speed, make sure you get your queens going, and then simply start producing non-stop Zerglings. When you have 50 gas, put down the Baneling nest, move out right when link speed finishes. It's really easy, it's really straightforward, it's really dirty, but it works really, really well. So let me know what you thought of this video. Let me know if you know, are gonna try out this video or like try out this build order, and if you do, make sure you let me know down below if you managed to win the game as well, because so far, I've got a 100% win rate with this so far myself. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed watching. If you haven't already, hit that like button. If you want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button. And other than that, have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And I'll see you in the next one. Boom!